Hey guys, I want to show you an example of how to create a graph in Google Sheets. So first thing, it's a good idea to always have the independent variable listed in the first column. Okay. Step 1, figure out what your independent variable is, put it in the first column. Step 2, make sure your dependent variable goes in the next column. If you have multiple trials, it's a good idea to put each trial in its own column here. Next, make sure that each column heading is complete. Make sure that you have whatever description you need in there. Once you have that in there, it makes your graph a little bit easier once you create that. If you want to do a smaller version, if you don't want to put all 4 trials onto your graph, you could do an average. So just a reminder, if you're trying to do an average of something, if you click equals, average, start typing out average, and it should give you a few options here. Numerical average. Okay, so if I type that, you can either type the word or just click what it fills in for you. I'm going to go up here. This is going to be spaghetti strand 7. I want an average of these numbers. So you can just highlight the ones that you want. It types it in here. To tell the computer you're done, end the parentheses and then hit enter. If you don't want to go up and highlight the boxes, you can type it in. You can type in B4, that's this one, colon, which means through, E4, but it's a little easier to make mistakes that way, so it's kind of nice when the computer does it for you. So I did the same function, B3 through B6. Did I do that right? Let's try that again. So this one should be the average if I want to edit that. So if I'm going to type in this, I'm going to type from here to here. I'm going to hit enter. There we go. So once you have those average functions in, if you end up going back to change any of these numbers, it's kind of nice because the average automatically updates. Alright, let's see if this works. I want to fill this in, but I don't really want to type it. What you can do is click this. So you see that little dot there? If you get your crosshairs and you drag it down, it should update. Alrighty, look at that. It updated with the function in there. So this says it's B5 through E5. That works. And this one should be B6. Yep, B6 through E6. So this function, this little crosshairs, works to drag the function. Quick note, if you don't have a function in there, for example, I just typed the number 20, if you don't have anything else in there and you use the crosshairs, it duplicates whatever's in there. Okay, so if you don't want to do that, Control Z to undo. Okay, let's make a graph real quick. So if you're doing the whole thing, highlight all the way from the top to the bottom. Don't forget your column headings. So make sure those are in there. You can either click this button, Insert Chart, or you can click on Insert Chart. Same thing, either place, doesn't matter. Once you do that, it's already got a lot of labels in there. This looks like scatter plot data. Since we have separate trials, we're not talking about change over time, so we're going to change this to a scatter plot. And then check this out. You have a legend already that tells you which trial number. Kind of lengthy, so if you want to delete it all into so that it just says trial 1, 2, 3, 4, that's fine. You've got a an x-axis label down here. You don't have a y-axis label, so before you are finished with this graph, you really need to get that in there. So we're going to go to chart and axis titles. That would be the vertical axis, and you can type in what you need there. So this would be number of washers needed to break the spaghetti, and that should update automatically over there. What else was I going to say? Do you see how this bottom axis, the line starts at 5, and I'm not seeing a 0 over here. If you would like to have a 0 mark over here, that's dealing with your horizontal axis. You can put a minimum on here, so we can say minimum of 0. I see that the maximum is 20. But if you want to make it a little past there, we could just say 25 or something to kind of center your data. Or leave it at 20, that's fine. That's a good way to get your 0 marks on here. It's kind of nice. That kind of makes a cleaner edge on your graph, and it helps you, I don't know, I think it helps you see the trend. Okay, last things that I wanted to mention on here. Oftentimes we'll be looking to get a trend line on here. So for a trend line, we're going to go to Series, and then from here, when you go down to Series, you should be able to ask it to create a trend line. This is creating one trend line for each trial. So I'm seeing a blue one, a yellow one, green, red. You can ask it to tell you the equation for those. So this is in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, unless it's a crazy other type of equation here. But usually that you could assume that this is y equals, this is your slope x plus, and then your y-intercept here. What else? Okay, having 4 trend lines is kind of a bit much. So if you're thinking maybe we don't need that much, maybe we just need to do a graph with just the averages, I would suggest copying your independent variable column, copy that to a new spot, so highlight and do your control, what is it? Control C for copy, Control V for paste. And then over here what I did was we already created our averages, so when you graph just this, insert our chart from here, then we only have one data set to deal with. But you can again go back into this, and what did we do? We did horizontal axis, we set our minimum, our maximum, and what else do we want? You could do our series, get our trend line set up, ask it to create your equation. Alright, if you want to adjust anything else, you're welcome to go in and mess with the title for the graph, but the title should include your independent and dependent variables. The nice thing about Google is if you set up your table with your independent variable first and then your dependent variable, that puts it into your title already. So I might go through and capitalize A for average, maybe don't put the pound sign for number, maybe type it out if this is an official lab report or something, but this should get you everything you really need, all the basics there. Let me know if you have questions. One other couple things I forgot I was going to mention. If your table is looking kind of crazy and you've got a lot of words on these, I'm going to set these off to the side for just a second. Okay, couple other tips and tricks. Sometimes you've got a lot going on in these rows. These, do you ever get this? You try to type in the thing and it's kind of cut off here. So what you can do for this is you can click this text wrapping button, and this is a kind of a nice way to get your stuff to fit in the boxes. So, sorry, I'll do that again. You click this button right here and it brings it to the next line. The other thing is if you've got a lot going on in your spreadsheet, it's a good idea to highlight stuff, add some borders on there so that you can see what you're working with a little bit easier. Kind of sets it off. Other functions that might be helpful, other tips, this, let's see here. I don't know if you need this, definitely not in this particular lab, but merging cells can be handy. So you can squish those cells together. Other things that I find helpful are vertical aligned, so it kind of makes your stuff more organized if you want all your numbers, for example, to be centered, either up or down or whatever. Fun stuff there. Other things we might work with is adding decimal places or taking away decimal places. Doesn't really make sense to have decimals in this case except for your averages. But anyway, can be helpful functions for you guys. Alright, hope this helps, and let me know if you've got any questions.